Somebody once told me the word. Oh yeah! How's it going, everybody? The name's John, and welcome to another movie review vlog. Oh, first off, let me just say Happy New Year's to you all out there. To the very first video on the BoobTube channel for 2018. I do apologize, I was gonna work on a few movie reviews here and there in December, but with my current dilemma, with my family and everything else at home, and my other things in my personal life, I pretty much had to push it back. But I will make up for it next time around when December rolls around, whether it be Christmas vlogs or some Star Wars vlogs, but you know how it is sometimes. But with that said, it's a new year and it's time for a new set of reviews. Starting with, of course, the Netflix hit Bright, or somewhat of a hit, according to mixed critics and fans, of course. It's one of those movies where apparently, if you mix urban street LA with fantasy, you tend to get a bit of an odd mashup. And don't get me wrong, I do enjoy some good fantasy and good urban type feel, LA, New York, or whatever type of thing. But when you mix two good things together, it's not exactly gonna be perfect. Of course, ice cream and root beer, making a root beer float is fantastic. But if you mix a PBJ with an egg sandwich, you're not going to get a very good result, if you ask me. Let me just put this down right over here. So, the movie Bright takes place in modern day LA, where apparently the fantasy world kind of comes into play, where apparently orcs, elves, and other fantasy creatures have existed on Earth for over 2,000 years, or something like that, since the creation, along with humans and everything else. And in this fantasy urban world, Will Smith, of course, plays a LA cop who's partnered with one of the very first orcs in the country, played by Joel Edgerton, named Jacob. And they have a bit of a mixed-match relationship, but I think they're trying to force like a bit of a buddy cop duo thing going on. And along the way, there's a plot that entails that they have to help out this elf girl who's in possession of this wand, which apparently in this world, a wand is like the equivalent of having a nuclear weapon or some ultimate powerful device. And they're being hunted by various creatures and other unknown forces out there as well, as they're trying to survive the night. Now, right off the bat, I just want to say, because like I say, when I do movie reviews, I like to focus on the characters first, then the plot outline second. Will Smith did okay for his job, but at the same time, we just see Will Smith being the most Will Smith that he's ever been, but the most rated R Will Smith in my opinion. So what I mean by that is that we get moments where Will Smith himself pretty much goes all in with his actual character thing. Like there would be scenes where Will Smith would talk to his partner and they'd just go, "Hey man, hell no. Hey, what's that orc thing you do when you shut the hell up?" "Yeah, that's what I thought. Ha." You know, stuff like that. Joel Edgerton, I have to say he's one of the best moments in this movie. Mostly because he does his very best to sell this character in a very, very somewhat crappy movie. Because he does sell it with his backstory and his character as well. But I just really can't say the same for everything else. And there are some other smaller characters who get small minor appearances like Will Smith's wife and kids, but they're only in it for about a good 10 or 15 minutes. They show up for the first act, then they show up at the very end of the third act, which don't really has a whole lot of moral dilemma. There are some other characters as well, like these two FBI agents. One's human, the other one's elf, and their acting is okay for the most part. And their villains in here are a little bit generic, about as generic as they can be, but they're also pretty lethal. And my God, it's quite obvious this movie was a rated R, and not just from the labeling, but of course the massive amount of gratuity, fantasy violence, and the large amount of cussing that's in here. I mean, there's so much cussing that it's the type of cussing that where a teenager is trying to be all tough in front of his new group of thug friends by saying a whole lot of bad words, you know what I'm saying? But, I mean, we get it. This movie is a rated R rating, but it doesn't have to say that much cussing, alright? Director David Ayer. And if you've ever seen a director David Ayer movie, you've pretty much seen them all. Whether it be Training Day, Suicide Squad, that movie with tanks, I forgot what it's called, End of Watch. Now, the thing about David Ayer is that he's doing a lot of copy and pasting from all of his previous movies, and he's inserting them into here. Whether it be gun violence or stereotypical thugs, and yes, I do say stereotypical, because the thing is about this movie is that They treat orcs as second-class citizens, like, to put it appropriately, African Americans or Hispanics of the low culture, while they treat humans as middle class, or just blending in with the rest of the group, or elves as the one percenters, where they are so rich and fancy. But the thing is that when you were trying to, I know this movie was mostly focused on racism, but in a fantasy way. But at the same time, when I expect racism, I thought it would be a cultural species difference between humans, orcs, and elves. But from what I can tell, they just mesh everything together, because not only are the orcs the most thuggish group in LA, there's also the Hispanics and also the African Americans as well. They're about as thuggish as they can be, pretty much like any other universe that they... Oh boy. This is a little bit of a sensitive topic, so I hope I'm not offending anybody. But what I'm getting at is the stereotype kind of just meshes all together, and it's pretty much the same as you'd see in any other rated R movie. The only difference is that, of course, they included one other stereotype, which is the orcs, just meshing into the rest of the urban LA world. And for a $90 million movie budget, there was a lot of things that they put in here. From the great special effects, which is pretty good, and the magic that they included, and then there was also a lot of the special effects with fairies and dragons as well. I mean, there was a scene where they showed the overlay of Los Angeles, and they show a dragon flying. Now, as a nice little touch as that was, I'm just thinking to myself, that could be a bit of a problem if you have dragons still flying in the modern world, if you ask me. And another thing that really bothered me was that there's a plot in the movie where they're trying to keep where Will Smith and Joel Edgerton's character, Jacob, try to keep this elf girl safe along with the wand, and then when they see the wand, Joel Edgerton says some stuff along the lines of, this is the stuff of legends and blah blah blah, while Will Smith says, there ain't no legends, hell no. But I'm like, you live in a fantasy world. Are you kidding me? And you just said that. So overall, I would have to say that this movie has a lot of good things going for it, but at the same time, they just don't really mesh very well. And I've heard rumors that whether or not they're gonna scrap a sequel or bring about a sequel, but whichever the case, if they do have a sequel, they have a lot of stuff to clean up for a part 2 of Bright. I mean, to me personally, I'm a sucker when it comes to shoot 'em up action movies and everything else. This is okay for popcorn filler and whatnot. And normally I would say something along the lines of whether or not it'd be worth watching at the box office, but this is on Netflix, so if you do have the $10 a month subscription, it's not really costing you that very much, or if you're going to go over to a friend's house to watch it or whatnot. So overall, I would have to say this movie Bright is pretty okay, pretty standard, and really dull at times, which is why I would have to give it a 2 out of 5. And that concludes the review, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And if you guys like what you see, feel free to hit the like button at the bottom. If you guys have your opinions of what you thought about the movie, feel free to let me know in the comments below. And if you guys do have any requests, feel free to look me up on Patreon for the $1 a month club, and I will take any and all movie requests to vlog in future videos. And with that said, I will see you all next time.